Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show from Franz, Sidney, and today, Christina Marz. Hello, Christina. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Hello, Franz. So nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Hey, it is so good, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. It's a bit of an interesting topic that covers many areas. And this is coming all the way from Ecuador, although Christina is German and speaks perfect English. So, hey, would you like this in Spanish? Maybe we can do that. No, just kidding, just kidding. But, we talked about lots of topics and we're going to have 2 or 3 episodes recorded. We go healing with horses, we
Yeah.
got loneliness, we
Yes.
got a lot of stuff going on here because Christina, as a psychotherapist and owner of schools and things that she will talk about, she knows a lot and she wants to help people to create the life that they want. So if you're keen in January to write down those goals and really think, well, what would I like to have as my background? I have a fake background, it's not mean, but actually that is the background of where she is. It's a wonderful place. And sometimes we feel lonely, disconnected, unfulfilled where we are. Is it something inside us or is it something outside of us? Is it coming from the past? So let's analyze all this. It's a very loose way today. So you start introducing the topic because you know so much about it.
Thank you so much, Franz. And yes, my background is actually my view here right in front of me. And it is as glorious as it looks in that virtual background. And today we're talking about loneliness, which is, not such an appealing topic, maybe. But I think it is something that we need to look at because it affects a lot of people in all kinds of ways. Sometimes it comes from inside, and people move, for example, to Ecuador. There's a lot of expats here to escape their problems, their loneliness, and they believe that moving abroad is going to change that. And it does not, because if you carry it inside, you will bring it to anywhere. And sometimes it's something that comes from the surroundings and from your life circumstances. And that is something that I have experienced myself. So I work as a psychotherapist. I also have a foundation where we do psychotherapy and equine therapy for people in crisis, families in crisis who cannot afford services otherwise. So I talk to people of all different social backgrounds all the time. And very often, when there is somebody who apparently follows their dreams and creates the life of their dreams, which is, what you talk about setting goals and setting intentions and doing what you want, all of a sudden they believe that they are alone in the world because there is nobody who can relate to that from different perspectives. So there's people who are like, well, your life is so perfect, so you don't even understand what I'm going through. Or people have a regular, even in their eyes, like boring life, and my life is so interesting, so how would I even be able to connect to them? And I have seen that many people then um, kind of believe that from their own perspective. So you are me. Okay, let's talk about my own example, right? So I live in Ecuador. I'm from Germany, and I have a horse farm. So I bought land. I have horses. I teach healing with horses, and my life is very different from pretty much everybody else I know, except my students. And people cannot relate to what it means having horses, living with that kind of view, and I sometimes believe that I cannot share what is really going on in my life. When somebody says, just let me know if you need help, I'm like, yeah, no, you have no idea what you're asking for because my reality is so completely different than that of most people I know, living in a small house in an apartment, having an 8 to 5 job, um, maybe one pet, and that has brought me myself to really isolating myself and not sharing what is really actually going on, and not believing that I can have these profound friendships because nobody gets it. And I think that applies to a lot of people who are actually doing what they want to do, writing books or traveling the world or having a horse farm, because most people who surround us do not. Would you say that is true?
Yes, could it be that we seem to have different values? Maybe because people
Yes.
say, why you're not doing, for example, the Italian dream in the 60s, in the 70s, you get a government job, you work for the post office, you're gonna be safe. If you wanted
Yes.
to be an artist like me, like, you're gonna be hungry the rest of your life, you're never gonna get a job. So you look like it's a loser because he doesn't want to become a doctor, a lawyer, or work in an office. So
Mhm.
that's how you will be seen. So eventually you stop talking about your dream because you seem to be the only person.
Yes, yes, exactly. And in order to fulfill that dream of traveling full time or being an artist or having a horse farm, you need to really set a very strong intention and you need to push through because there is going to be problems, right? It's not
Mm,
all like love and peace and wonderful. There is a lot of barriers that we have to overcome. So if I listen to everybody who says, yes, you will be hungry for the rest of your life. Why would you move to a third world country? This is so hard. Then you can never leave your farm again. You know, all the problems. My mom is a teacher, was a teacher, and is the get a government job and be safe on that area. So there are very little people who understand me. And then, as you said, we stop talking about it because
mm.
the others kind of weigh it down. And that is maybe helpful during the push through phase. But then once you have it, then you're lonely all of a sudden because there's nobody who followed that. There is people who feel disconnected. You feel disconnected from others. There is this um, maybe jealousy or like yeah writing it off while you like your life is perfect in your palace with your
Mm.
wonderful view like it's not, it's actually sometimes really hard, but it's hard to connect to others,
Yes.
and that's when the loneliness comes in from a very different perspective than I don't find a romantic partner or the regular thoughts about
Yeah.
loneliness.
That's an interesting topic because if you think about it, not a lot of people go and write in social media or articles in Forbes. You won't write an article about being lonely after you have achieved your dream, whatever
Mhm.
that means. Because the funny thing is that people look at other people's situations and they think, oh, that's ideal. I would love to be in that situation. I would be a lot happier. And I remember I've been a teacher of language, Italian and Greek. And then I worked 15 years for the Italian class for adult education. So all my students would come there, oh, Franz, I can't wait to go in Italy for holidays. I go back twice a year, 3 times a year. What a wonderful country. Why on earth did you move to England?
Mm.
And I was like, because it's obvious, when you're suffocated by tax and bureaucracy and you can't get a job, the brain drain in Italy is people move. They couldn't understand. They were like, I can't wait to go and retire there. And I would think, good luck, because when you go there,
Yeah.
it isn't just Michelangelo, Raffaello, and the good food. It's the
Really, is it not? Oh,
humidity.
bummer.
No, it's the humidity that you suffer the heat like crazy. When it's 24,
Yeah.
25 Celsius, you are drenched in humidity,
Mhm,
drenched.
mhm.
When you go inside, they're gonna put the air conditioning. Which air conditioning? There isn't. But if there is, have you seen the bills? My first electric bill in winter when I moved back to Italy, 2002, was 350 euros
Oh my God.
first
Wow.
month. And it was just because we had a little baby and we had to put the heater there. After
Mm,
that, we were like, no, I mean, 9 degrees in the bedroom. It was like the bills kill you, the
mm.
bureaucracy kills you, and every day you're living in this stress. So when is the next bill coming from somebody else? It's extremely stressful. So when I hear people saying, if I could just move to Italy, I would be happy, I just laugh. I
Yeah.
laugh because you cannot live like that unless you have a lot of money. But the taxes are crazy. There is a tax on the fridge, on the wood burner. There's a tax on everything, on the
Yeah.
breathing. So eventually people just go, or they
Yeah.
just give up. They say whatever. So this rosy idea moving to Italy is
Hmm.
not really
Yeah.
realistic. Maybe you're you're wanting a better climate or some social food, and spend time with all the people and talk more, because in Britain people are a little bit more stiff upper lipped, and they don't want to do as the Italians. And you have this dream, and we went to Italy for a couple of years thinking that's the dream, we're gonna be happy. I've never been so stressed in my entire life as when I was in Italy with a new baby. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Well,
And we
and
were
for
very
me, it
lonely.
had this other aspect to it that, well, I moved to Ecuador against everybody's best advice and everybody's best wishes, really, because third world country, and is there even internet, and and then of course it is what I wanted. I wanted to be closer to nature. I wanted to have more freedom in my business development, less costlier lifestyle. Ecuador is really inexpensive. But then of course there are also problems, and I had the feeling that I couldn't share that
Hmm.
because it was my own choice. Like, well, what is there to complain? I choose to be here. So I really don't want to feed into their, like, oh, I told you so. Or right. I was like, so now it has to be all wonderful and all exactly what I wanted. And all of these little steps, I'm here for over 20 years. They brought me to this, um, I can do it alone. Like, I can do it on my own, and I don't need your advice. I don't need anybody's help, and I can do this. And I can. I mean, I made it happen. But I do miss connecting on this deeper level with people. And I was wondering, so, like, what can I do about it, right? Because seeing that, analyzing that, or diagnosing yourself is just the first step. Then I'm a person who usually likes to find solutions to whatever comes up. So I was yeah, analyzing that situation, talking, reading, and trying to use my own advice. I do counseling, I do mentoring. So what would I tell a client, right? That I maybe could also use myself. Do you use your own advice for yourself, Franz, or do you sometimes forget to do that?
Sometimes I forget, but yeah, most of the times I look back and I said, well, what would I be telling my client to do? And then I'm like, right, let's get on. But
Yes.
sometimes we have this emotional bias, so
Yeah.
we don't want to admit that our parents were right, or we want to prove that Uncle John was not right, or whatever. And so we wait, because there is something called pride there, isn't it? I
Mhm.
moved there and it wasn't as good as I thought.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, or maybe it is as good as I thought most of the time, but
But
not
not
all
all
the
the time.
time. And everybody has problems. I mean, it's a total fantasy to go anywhere in the world or be anything that you want and then believe that once I get there, once I have that, once I'm a published author, everything will be magically awesome forever. It's just not true.
No, you're just
And
moving from one set of problem
to
to
another.
another set of
Yes.
problem that you might
Yes.
prefer or not.
Yes. Yes, and in my I'm an independent entrepreneur. I have a business. I teach healing with horses all over the world. I have a foundation. So there's all these little steps of, you just need to get to X followers on Instagram, or you just need to publish the book, and then everything will be right. But then there's a next step and a next step. There's always something that comes after that you didn't even know existed as a problem in the previous stage, right?
Hmm.
So what do we do with that? And I have a super power tool that I use a lot, and I think you can probably relate to that as a hypnotherapist. I do heart math. And that is a way of regulating our emotions in a very practical way. It's a breathing technique that consists in doing inhale and exhale for the same amount of time so that you regulate your nervous system. And then the trick is to bring in an emotion that you want to feel. So let's say I'm feeling disconnected and I'm feeling lonely, and I can dive into that and I can be sad about it or I can be angry about it. And none of that will help me actually connect to somebody and overcome this phase of loneliness. So the trick is for me to imagine what do I actually want instead of thinking about what do I want to get rid of. And I want to be connected to a group of people that maybe has a similar lifestyle or that gets me in a similar way. And how would they be like? You know, there's a lot of expats here in the town where I am, but they're all 70 plus. So I have kids at home, and I homeschool, so I need younger families, I need moms, I need maybe business moms and or horse owners. So I imagine how would that friend that I'm loathing for, who would that be? What kind of person would that be? And then I imagine talking to them, and what would I tell them, and what would we share? What would the other person maybe share? And that gets me into that mindset of attracting what I actually want instead of getting more of what I don't want. Does that make sense?
Yes. Always state what you want, not what you don't want. It's something that my daughter hears from me all the time.
Yes.
I always say this about life. If you went to a restaurant and the waiter came to you and he said, "What would you like?" You're not going to say, "Right, I don't eat dairies. I don't really
Right.
like meat. I don't really like sunflower oil, and I don't really like vegetables." The
Right.
waiter's going to go, "All right, I'll see you later," because he has no idea what to give you. But
Yes.
if you
And
say,
the
"Give me
universe
some,"
is the same.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. You should give us a very specific thing, how you want it. You want it roasted or fried or whatever. And then he has some idea what to give you. But the mind doesn't understand the negative stuff very much. So if we
Yes.
keep saying, "I don't want this, I don't want that," the mind all it hears is da da da, all this negative stuff.
Exactly. So thinking I don't want to be lonely anymore or I don't want to feel lonely anymore is, we can put that aside. It doesn't really work
Yeah.
at all. So I say what I do want. Okay, so I want more meaningful connections. I want to be more around people. But that's not enough either because that's not specific enough. So, what kind of connections do I want? What kind of people do I want to talk to? Because, I could be in a room full of people and feel lonelier than here alone on my farm with my horses. And being specific about that requires analyzing ourselves, what I really need instead of what everybody thinks that you need. Right? You tend to follow those social norms of, well, then just, I don't know, maybe you need a partner, or maybe you need, whatever it is, a business mentoring group or something. And
Yeah.
maybe that's it, that is what you need, and maybe it's not. So for me, imagining what kind of conversation I would like to have is really helpful in that regard. And for me, that has come true through my student community, actually, because I teach what I live, right? And the students who come to me and also have herds of horses and also are into healing or counseling and doing something different, they usually have a very similar set of problems, a very similar life. And I have found my best friends in my student community through mentoring groups or through sometimes online classes, or just talking to people who then take some of my courses, or maybe not, but we find out that we have a lot in common. So for me, shifting and giving more attention to, I don't only love horses and want to live out in the countryside and do counseling, but that is the main focus in my life. And I want to attract other people who think the same and are interested in the same topics, even though they are seemingly random to a normal person. Right. So
Normal.
yeah. So, my psychologist colleagues from Germany, they don't. get how I can combine clinical psychology and a herd of horses. But for some people, I mean, the world is big. We can reach everybody everywhere. For some people, that makes total sense. And those are my people. So it's not for me about having coffee with my best friends in my own town all the time. It's about finding my community of very specific people anywhere in the world, from New Zealand to Newfoundland, wherever you want to put them, place them on Earth.
Mhm.
Uh, and through internet, through social media, it's actually not that difficult to connect to these kind of communities if you dare being specific. Because then in social media, maybe it's easier to create a brilliant channel with thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers if you talk about, I don't know, holistic psychology, something very broad and very general, or hypnosis, or just horses. But combining everything that I'm interested in, a different way of education and horses and counseling and mindfulness and personal development, then I narrow it down to a niche where I find my soulmates. Like when people find me and they're like, oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. I'm like, yeah, and you are exactly who I'm looking for, because we get each other. And that for me has helped so much in my own self-development and feeling like in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
Mhm.
And as a beautiful side effect, also helps bring my business forward, because it's easy to find my ideal clients when I dare to be specific.
Yes, very niche. And of course, this applies to anything. So, cultural interests,
Mhm.
ethnic, whatever we think that has to be important in a life, because we, as human, we are very attached to connecting with somebody similar to us. Probably because we do not like to debate and argue the whole day. We would like to just get along with everyone. So, isn't that a
Yeah, and
lot
feel
easier?
understood. I think
Yeah,
feeling understood and feeling heard and seen is
yes.
so important.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't find it weird that if you have horses and you're on a farm, maybe for a New Yorker, it's like, what are you doing? I could be a psychotherapist here in New York and $500,000 a year just doing a couple of hours a week. And here there in this remote place. But that's what you wanted, and that's what made you have a very special and unique life. And maybe that's because all this loneliness comes from the society push to earn a certain amount of money, get married at the age, have children at the age, retire when they say, and who said that we have to do exactly what
Right.
everyone thinks? And probably I would have thought the most genius people in the world are the ones that didn't follow everything and they thought laterally and they found the little groups of nerdy people or people who like crochet. I don't know. Steve Jobs was in a garage coming up with codes and say, why computers are so complicated? Let's make them easier. Max were born. So we have to be ourselves. And sometimes that means very different, with very different ideas and values from other people. And we can
Mhm.
find this tribe because, yeah, 6 billion people. It's
Right.
possible.
There must be somebody who has similar
There must
interests.
be.
Yes.
So, what tips would you give to these people that want to embrace a different lifestyle, but they're stuck in a 9 to 5 job with all the stuff and it's boring to them and they want to do something more exciting? Maybe having a little farm in Sardinia. Maybe they
Yeah.
want to go to New Zealand in a little tiny island. Maybe we want to go to Greece in the Peloponnese, Cyprus, all these amazing places, Bali. I have a friend who did it.
Mhm.
But okay, they want to do it. And aside from going to an expat forum, what else can they do?
Yes. So I think the first step really is getting to know yourself really well and analyze from a practical point of view. So, yes, Bali is, that place everybody talks about, or farming your own vegetables. That sounds so interesting, or being an artist in Greece. but being honest with yourself and imagining what would my day actually look like. So if you want to be a writer, like I've published a book and I writing is interesting for me, but it has this magical fantasy that like you I don't know, like you magically produced a book and then you magically sell it, and then you're an author. But what it actually means is that you sit hours and hours and hours for weeks and months in front of your computer, being alone, doing research and writing. And then after that phase, you have to be super social and you have to go out and do book tours and and read from your book and connect to your readers and like talk to everybody about it and share a million times what you wrote and why you wrote it and what you wrote about. And that are two realities that are difficult to combine, I believe. There's the introverts, for them the book tour will be difficult, and then it's the other way around, the extroverts who will have a hard time sitting on their desk writing. So talking to somebody who actually has a similar lifestyle is very important, and being honest with yourself that maybe having a horse farm in Ecuador sounds so romantic, but that also means that you have to get out in the rain feeding the horses every day, not just when you feel for it, but every day. And there will be illness, and then you have to bring in a vet, and they're not easily available. And so there's issues to that. And if you manage to create a dream without betraying yourself, maybe go and try it for a while not everything depends on it. So, like, I'm working until I'm 60 and then I'm selling everything and then I'm going to buy my vineyard in Argentina. And then you get there and after 2 months you're like, huh, this is a little different than what I imagined. So going like small portions in, I think is helpful, and being realistic, and connecting to others who do something similar and asking the tough questions. So, in my student community, there's a lot of people who want to be coaches or healers and therapists with horses. And then they're like, "Oh, yeah, but so what do you do when it rains?" Or how do you actually get clients? Or how expensive is it to have several horses or to rent several horses? So sometimes we don't know what to ask if we're just, entertaining the fantasy and the thought on our own. So being in these groups where people actually do what you want to do, I think is really helpful. So, you talk in your show, you talk a lot about setting intentions and creating that reality that you want to, and that's great. But before that, you need to know, so what is that reality in a realistic way, which, sounds like a bummer, right?
No, but
I'm
it
creating
is
my dream
correct.
reality in a realistic way. Like, maybe not
Yeah.
so appealing, but so important for the long-term success, because otherwise it will be a very short-lived, like a being in love phase, and then that first passion fades out, and then
Yes.
then maybe it's not that great anymore.
And the end of the day, what will count is the quality of your daily life. You
Yes.
can't spend a terrible year in the hope to have a good day. I'd rather
Mhm.
have every day a good day
Yeah.
because there is something in my environment, inside myself, in the house, and in my direct vicinity. Because a lot of people spend a lot of time in the house. So,
Mhm.
is that house, that environment, that spiritual environment, that emotional environment make you feel good and
Yeah.
at peace? Or is that going to be a source of trouble? Which is
Yeah.
why I always laughed when people talked about going to Italy and being happy.
Hmm.
Okay, we spend so much time in offices queuing to pay every bill there. So
Yeah.
the water, you have to go to that office on a certain day. The electricity to the other office in the other day. And we spent all this time and they're all smoking. And the queues would last for hours and hours. And that totally ruined our life. I mean, we portrayed going to Italy as a, oh yeah, we're gonna visit the museums, we're gonna have a good weather, and just it's just totally different. So having a sense of realism of what is actually going to be like every day,
Yeah.
every day. Then
Yes.
am I ready for that, or is it just a dream? Then try it. Go there for 6 months, rent, and
Yeah.
then come back and tell me how you feel. And that is the first intention is to try it, see what
Yes.
it's
Try
like.
it. And without
Yeah.
so much pressure of my students when they sign up for the course for the certification, and they're like, I'm quitting my job and I'm going all in, and I'm like, no, please do not do that. Just keep your job and do it as a side hustle, and then build it up slowly, because the pressure that you have when you go all in, I mean, it's remarkable having that strength and that energy to go all in, but it can be so frustrating because it gets scary. Like if you then depend on that income, depend on that book to sell, depend on that, I don't know, vacation rental to rent,
Yeah.
then it gets unpleasant very fast.
Very quickly.
Very fast. Yes. If you
Yeah.
run out of
So
money, nothing is fun, not even Italy.
I know that's why we came back really fast because we realized we would never be able to survive because the tax system and bureaucracy was going to kill all our savings. So we went back, and I actually kissed the floor when we get out of the airplane. Mwah, back to England. I couldn't wait. And then after
Yeah.
30 years settled in England, I got married and I moved to the US. So that's my third. I'm 60 now, so I just moved in June. So I'm doing 2020 now and see which continent is better.
Yeah. Well, and it's brave also to admit that and to come back, right? And exposing yourself to the, well, I told you so, to all
Yeah,
these brilliant,
yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah, but sometimes we have to try it to see if that
Yes,
value was honored or not. And now that
exactly.
we've had the experience, we realize, well, yeah, the pros and the cons, and we balance if they were good for us or not. And actually, yeah, what was making me happy was not that, was something else. And that's absolutely fine.
Yes, it's absolutely fine. And for some people, it will be better to, I don't know, go on a 4-week riding trail or healing with horses retreat once a year, instead of
Yes,
trying to be that person
yeah.
themselves. And it applies, I always talk about horses, I'm sorry. But it
No, that's okay.
applies to all
Yeah,
the different things. Like
yeah,
there's artist communities, artist
yeah.
retreats, writers retreats that might be better than being a full-time artist and full-time writer.
Yeah, it is true. You remind me a little bit of my son Alex. He's 22, and a couple of years ago, he was very much into tall bikes, which are 6 foot tall bikes,
Oh
like
wow.
in a circus. He
Yeah.
built them. He had three, four, five. He has so many bikes. And then he said, "Mom, I'm gonna go to this closest city on a bike." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so dangerous." But no, he went and he kept going to all the another city and another city on this tall bike. And he, I love bikes, Mom. I really love it. I should get a job. You should get a degree. No, no, no. So he went all the way to Scotland from England. And that
Mhm.
was a long way. He was there 6 months. So I'm going to go to, and he said, I'm going to go to Holland. So he worked there in a family where they have horses. And he worked there for all summer. Then he said, you know what, I'm going to go to Turkey. So he backed all the way to Turkey on this tall bike. And then
Wow.
everyone, he was in the news, national news, and then he was like, "I'm really gonna go down." He went to Cyprus, Bulgaria, Iraq, Iran, and now he's in Nepal. And he's been 2 years around. And lots of people go, "Oh, I wish I could do the same." And most people will do that when they retire. And he's like, "I'm gonna do it now."
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can go and do exactly what he's doing because you have to try to sleep in a tent. Now he's got a
Right.
dog
Yes.
and
No.
not be able to wash or anything for days.
Yeah.
The heat, the cold, the mosquitoes, the police, people who attacked him, literally threw his bike on the floor. They had to call all the embassy and also police. It was all this stuff that happened to him. He's a 22-year-old strong person and strong minded, and he
Mhm.
can do that. But it's not for everyone, isn't it?
No, no, absolutely not. No, I would never say I want to do that. Like,
Yeah,
but
especially
but
a
but
lady.
I can still find it fascinating, right? So
Yeah, Yeah.
It's interesting to hear
Yeah.
about it and then be realistic and say, no, I do
Yeah.
not want to
You see
bike
this.
every day
Yeah.
and sleep in a tent. No.
In the photo, it all looks good. I'm here and we look at the monuments, look at all this, all brilliant. But who's there dying for the cold in the night in a tent or in an apartment that is not well heated? He is. So always remember there is a big difference between what looks like perfect on Instagram and what is the real life of being a
Yes.
writer, an artist, a post office worker,
Mhm.
whatever that is. Try maybe set your intention, know what you're going through, do your research, and see
Yeah.
why you want to do it. Why do
Yes.
you think you're going to be happier if you're going to be somewhere else?
Right. And I always think that mentoring is such an important tool for these kind of life-changing questions.
Mm.
Therapy always sounds like you need to have, I don't know, depression or anxiety or something, but mentoring or also therapy counseling to find out what is your mission, your passion, how would that look like? Somebody who dares asking the uncomfortable questions that friends sometimes don't ask, and really is available for deep listening without judgment, without going into your, like, I
Mhm.
know you, this is not, no, I don't know you, but I can still ask the questions that might bring you to a conclusion. So I would really recommend everybody who wants to do something unusual to invest in counseling, mentoring, self exploration, because doing the introspection yourself by listening to, I don't know, self help books or podcasts is good. It's a good start. But having somebody ask the actual important questions is that's priceless. That will help you come forward so much faster and so much clearer. So I would always add that as like the top piece of advice, really.
Yes. Well, thank you, Christina. It's been so fun talking to you, and we learned so
Yeah.
much. So thank you for coming to the show today. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm super happy next time to tell you more about the horses if you want to hear it.
Yes, there'll be more episodes. We'll talk about more stuff. So, yeah, watch this space, and I hope that this episode was good for you and interesting, and maybe you want to share it with one of your friends. So, see you all soon. Bye bye.
Bye.